Welcome back to ASBR Boxing. I'm delighted to be joined by Owen McKendry for this big fight breakdown as Devin Haney and Vasily Lomachenko clash on Saturday, May the 20th at the MGM Grand in Las Vegas. A fight for all the belts at lightweight. An absolutely incredible fight, huge fight. Obviously you got Devin Haney in one corner, the undefeated champion, holds all four belts, 29-0 in the other corner. Well, you don't really need any introduction to the Vasily Lomachenko, do you? Two weight world title holder. Obviously, won a world title in his third fight. He's won 17 of his fights. He's in good form again, and is getting his chance to become a three-time world champion. Owen, thanks for joining me, mate. I appreciate you jumping on, and I'm looking forward to this breakdown. First and foremost, how are you? And are you interested? And looking forward to this fight.
Pleasure as always to be on the video, Paul. Anyone who's a boxing fan that says they're not interested in their fight is a compulsive liar, because this fight it's everything we complain about in boxing that doesn't happen is exactly what this fight is. You've got a former world champion who's still one of the elite, and you've got a pound for pound after his recent victories, 29-0, he's finally got his coming out party in a sense. He's top 10 pound for pound, probably pushing top 5. So it's everything we moan about in boxing, everything the media moans about with the top fighters not fighting each other. Here it is. It's mouth-watering, honestly. It's one of the best fights I've seen made in a long, long time.
Yeah, man, I completely agree with you. I can't wait for it now. I wish it was waking up on May 20th right now, to be honest with you. It's an incredible fight. Something that you touched on there. Obviously, there's a few talking points that we want to go through. Something you touched on there was Haney's last two fights against George Kambosos Jr. when he won the belts, and then they had a rematch and he beat him again. Both fights he won convincingly. Arguably lost about 3 rounds in total. Between the 24 rounds that they boxed. Do you think that, judging on that fight, Owen, against George Kambosos Jr., do you think that Devin Haney, and looking at those performances, do you think that's made him the favourite here in this fight against Lomachenko?
See, it's a weird one with Lomachenko. I do think it has, because he's got all the belts. I think it'd be harsh to have someone with all the belts not the favourite, but it's Lomachenko. I do think the Teofimo night was an off night. I don't necessarily think you underestimated him. I think he's too clever to do so. I think it was just, unfortunately, it was just flat. One of those. I think Teofimo might have surprised him a bit on the night, how good he was that night. But I think he was just a bit flat. But I'd edge Haney as favourite. I think it'd be unfair not to. As good as we all know Lomachenko is, I think Haney's the man at the weight. He's got all the belts. He's beat the man who beat the man, sort of thing. So yeah, I personally would not like. We're not talking Haney being like 7-4 on, and Lomachenko being like a, I don't know, like a 21-10, or even pushing it out to like a 2-1 shot. I think you're talking maybe 5-4 Devin Haney and like a 15-8 for Lomachenko. I think along them lines, personally.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I think that it is only fair to make Devin Haney the favourite here. But I mean, at the same time, I for one, and I'm sure hundreds of thousands of other people will be looking at that and thinking, if Lomachenko's a big underdog here, they'll be definitely putting a bet on it, because it's Lomachenko at the end of the day. It's
Absolutely.
Lomachenko. You don't really need to say much more than, yeah, it's Lomachenko and he's an underdog. Well, he's not going to lose, is he? It's Lomachenko. Um, Really interesting, really interesting. One thing there that we mentioned, obviously, is you think that Haney is going to be a slight favourite. And I just kind of want to ask you, and firstly, we'll come to the champion and Devin Haney. Just, if you think, Devin Haney wins this fight, how does he go about that? How does he do it? What ways can he win?
It's a really tough one. This is probably not a fight for the neutral. I think there'll be a lot of back foot boxing. It'll be a fight for control of the ring. I think this is for hardcore like ourselves. I think this is going to be a footwork fight. I mean, I could probably, once it's done, I genuinely think I could sit, watch a rerun of it, and just watch their feet for 36 minutes and not watch a punch get thrown. I think for Haney, I think back foot is probably his best option. I think he's brilliant at it. I know it might sound weird to some people, but I think you watch him, even when Kambosos tried to come at him, everything he tried to come at him with, just held him at bay. Haney's jab is ridiculous. His jab is so sharp. And I think Lomachenko, he fights at weird angles. He's so awkward to fight against. I think if Haney sort of not necessarily lets him come at him, I think Haney's best option is to in and out, like a Mayweather style performance. Get in, get out. Anticipation is going to be massive for this in Haney. I know that's probably a massive cliche, but he's going to have to predict these weird angles. He's going to have to predict where Lomachenko's coming from, because if you don't, he will catch you. I mean, it's not going to be a knockout. I would genuinely be baffled. Like, I'd probably put a mortgage on this fight goes the distance. I mean, I'm more than happy with that. I just think Lomachenko's going to put pressure on, like I say, from weird angles. He's going to come in for almost from the side type thing. And I think Haney's just got to sit patient, and he's got to be, although it may seem like a long 36 minutes for him, I think he's just got to get that jab firing, probably even a double jab, just to keep him at bay as Lomachenko tries to come in from his angle, little 1-2, and then move away from him. So yeah, I definitely think back foot will be Haney's best friend in this fight.
Yeah, interesting. I think I would kind of have to agree with you there, as you mentioned something there about Haney's jab, and he's got a sensational jab. He arguably could have beaten George Kambosos Jr., and I don't mean any disrespect to Kambosos, obviously an elite fighter in his own right, but looking at those fights now, Haney probably could have won them with his right hand tied behind his back. In all seriousness, that's how good his jab was in those fights. And yeah, that's an interesting point there, everyone. Thanks for that. Now, if you're in the other camp, and I'm telling you that Lomachenko's going to win, how on earth is he going to do that? How's Lomachenko going to beat Haney? Does he have to be counter punching, which we've seen him do so well and successfully in his career?
Absolutely. I think Haney's been labelled as boring by a lot of people. I think it's harsh because it's just masterclass. The art of boxing, like say, you don't to not get hit. And I think Haney is unbelievable at doing that. He's so good at getting his jab off, following it up with a straight right or a hook to the body or even an uppercut, and getting back out and moving. He had Kambosos chasing him for the majority of that fight, and like I say, I completely agree with you. It sounds harsh, but he probably could have beat George Kambosos with literally one arm tied behind his back and just jabbed away and moved. I think Lomachenko has got to come in. He's brilliant at coming in from these weird angles. I really don't know how he does it. I've not seen many fighters like it. Like, you watch his footwork. I remember it was one like Dave Allen said it. He sat ringside and he went, I just watched his feet. I was mesmerised. So I think he's got to look to, again, anticipate Haney's jab. Whatever Haney's following up with, he's got to come in from, like you say, one of his weird angles and pressure. I think combinations are going to be huge. We've seen Lomachenko in the past where he mixes it up. He'll come in with 1 or 2 punches, then he'll come in and you don't even see where his hands are coming from, and he's punches 6 or 7 times. I think that's what he's got to try and do with Haney. Obviously, it's a harder task than some of his previous opponents, but counter punching 100%, coming from his weird angles, throw 4, 5, 6 punches and try and move again.
Yeah, 100%, mate. I think that he's a notorious counterpuncher, and the thing that you mentioned there, and the key for Lomachenko, for me, the key to victory is those angles. Like, Anthony Crawler fought Lomachenko and said there was times where he thought, oh yeah, I landed a good job and it was setting up a right hand, and then all of a sudden he was in the other corner of the ring. Do you know what I mean? You can't even see, you couldn't even see where he is, and he moves that fast. The amount of times we've seen Lomachenko, throw something from the southpaw stance and then move quickly in a split second to the orthodox stance, throw something to the body. All of a sudden, he's in front of you, throws his punches, moves, and while you're still looking in front of you, he's right beside you and he's attacking your body with hooks and stuff as well. It's incredible, his angles. So I think I agree with you there that the angles are important for Lomachenko if he is to win this fight. I think you kind of touched on something else I want to talk about, Owen. You said there that you'd be shocked if this fight doesn't go the full 12 rounds. So that was going to be my next question. Do you see the fight going the distance? Obviously, you do, but can you see any way of there being a knockout? Obviously, Haney has 15 stoppages in his 29 victories. Lomachenko has 11 stoppages in his 17 victories. So both have a decent knockout ratio, over 50%. But can you see either man stopping the other?
Um, I think if I had to pick, I think Lomachenko's more likely to get a stoppage because I think unless Haney catches him sweet and catches him so clean and he can capitalise on it and take him out, I think if you go searching for it with Lomachenko, it'll backfire. I think if you go chasing after him, even if he's like you sense he's hurt a bit, I think if you go chasing after him, you're playing into his hands. He wants, like we said, I know we've mentioned the angles quite a few times now, but if you come firing at Lomachenko, he'll use those angles, and if you go steaming in, he'll catch you out. I think Haney, as he's progressing in his career, I think I don't know what the right word is, but I think he's becoming sort of probably more. I don't know if necessarily sensible is the right word, but I think he's boxing smart. He's doing everything he needs to do, but not forcing it, not pushing it that extra mile. Might necessarily be because he hasn't been pushed enough to do so. I think he's just been that good, and I think he's been that much better than everyone else he's fought that he hasn't had to push. So Lomachenko may push him that far, but if I had to see a stoppage, it would be Lomachenko. But I think this is just going to be a masterful performance from both men, and I think it's just going to be. I think it's one of those I could probably sit and watch 7 days a week.
Yeah, man, I completely agree. I just fingers crossed fight lives up to expectation now. Obviously, for elite fighters, all four belts on the line. It's got all of the makings of a huge fight. Well, something else I quickly want to touch on because before I give you a prediction is the weight. A lot of people thought Devin Haney looked a little bit gaunt in his fights against Kambosos, but then they not wasn't to the detriment of his performance. Do you think that the weight will play a factor here, or do you kind of just see it as comfortable? Both men will make the lightweight limit comfortably.
It's a really tough one. I think Lomachenko, he'd probably make about 4 weights above and about 4 weights below. The geezer's just a freak. I think with Haney, he looked. I thought he looked terrible at the Cambosos rematch rating. I didn't think he looked great on the first fight, so I do think he's going to outgrow the weight massively. I think he will eventually have to move up, which will probably rob us of the Shakur Stevenson fight. I think could this possibly be his last? Potentially. I've seen him wearing sunglasses. I could just be reading into it, but to me, is that trying to hide it in the eyes a little bit? But I really do think if he wins this, although the Teofimo fight's there, obviously, is there anything he needs to do left at the weight? Not really. Be 30-0, cleaned up with all the bouts, Lomachenko on his CV, time to move up. I don't necessarily see it playing a factor, but I believe my opinion on that could change come fight week. As we get further into fight week, come the press conference, come the weigh-in, I do think that could change. Is it a question of as he's getting older, it gets harder to make? So the more fights he has at the weight, the worse not necessarily the worse he looks, but at the weigh-in, he can look very gaunt. So I don't think it will massively play a part, but personally, I do think this may potentially be the last time we see Devin Haney at the weight.
Yeah, interesting. I hope there's just no drama and with him missing weight and being stripped of his titles or whatever. But no, I think he seems professional. He'll make the weight, and yeah, hopefully, fingers crossed. We just have the fight. The fight lives up to all the hype. I can't let you get away, Owen. Just finally, without giving a prediction, and I'm just not going to let you sit on the fence at all here. So, what's your prediction for May 20th? As Vasily Lomachenko and Devin Haney battle it out for all of the marbles at lightweight.
It's going to have to be a 51-49 prediction. I love Lomachenko. He's one of my favourite fighters ever. And I love Devin Haney at the moment. This is probably one where you can ask me, if you ask me 10 times between now and fight night, I'll probably change 9. But as it stands now, I'm going Haney on a very tight points decision. Wouldn't surprise me if it was split or majority. But yeah, I'm gonna edge ever so slightly towards Haney points.
Yeah, fair play for sticking your neck out there. Because, and do you know what? Just for the sake of the video, and I agree, I think it's a 50-50 fight. I don't make Haney a huge favorite, despite him looking like he
Mhm.
is the favorite in terms of odds. I'm gonna go with the underdog here. I'm gonna go with Loma. I'm gonna go with the Ukrainian superstar. Something's telling me that he's had his injuries in the Lopez fight. He's come back from that. He looked devastated.
Yeah,
Remember the Comey fight when he was basically saying to Comey's corner, "Why are you not stopping this?"
yeah.
Things like that. He's got that spitefulness. There's just something about Lomachenko that, and I can see him. I can see him getting his hand raised and having four belts wrapped around his waist and his shoulders come fight night. But yeah, mate, as you said, an absolutely unbelievable fight. And fingers crossed, lives up to the hype.
It's one thing I did want to ask yourself. It's can you believe that we're in a Vasily Lomachenko fight night and he's the underdog?
Mate, no, I can't believe it. That just shows you how good Haney is and how good a fight this is. It's absolutely amazing, mate. I could talk about this all day with you, honestly,
Yeah.
but we're unfortunately going to have to wrap it up there, guys. Let us know your thoughts on this fight. Who do you agree with? Do you agree with Owen? Do you agree with me? Do you think there could be a stoppage? Just your thoughts on the fight, and yeah, thanks for watching, everyone. Cheers, Owen, for jumping on, and yeah, I'll speak to you again soon.
Pleasure as always, mate.